through which the nerve impulse would be conducted. So how there are different types of synapses, but how exactly nerve impulse conduction, how exactly nerve impulse would be conducted, we will be discussing. But here, if you see the synapses knob of every end of the dendrite or axon, not dendrite, sorry, axon would contain this synaptic terminals, and these are the types, these are the different types of neuron, the neurons which has got synapse, and especially synaptic cleft. So this is what we say, this gap is called as cleft. So through which, for example, during seizures, fits and all, right, what happens? So there would be improper generation of nerve impulse, right, in different or at the same time. The synapses would contain synaptic vesicles, which in turn contains neurotransmitters, which would be released into synaptic cleft. So once the synaptic cleft, these are released, they will be having receptors and channels, which actually takes up by the another neuron, and again nerve impulse starts. So actually nerve impulse stops at the axon, and then they activate these vesicles, and these vesicles which contains neurotransmitters will be releasing the neurotransmitters in the synaptic cleft. So these are chemical synapses. We call it as chemical synapses, which usually will have synaptic cleft. But electrical synapses will be there, where they look something like this. It doesn't have any synaptic cleft. So impulse would travel down the A to B neuron pretty much faster. But these type of neurons are very much less in our systems. You will find in animal kingdom. So one neuron from one neuron to another neuron, presynaptic membrane to the postsynaptic membrane. It means neuron A, neuron B. In between you have synaptic cleft. This entire part we call it as synapse, synaptic junction. So this is a structural aspects. Let's see functional aspects of the neuron. So as I told that the soma of neuron is nothing but cell body. Okay, and axon is from here to here, axon terminal, and we have synapses here. These are dendrites. So the electric impulse would start when chemicals are interacted or when it gets the stimulus. So when it receives the stimulus, it goes and excite the neuron, depolarize the membrane. So membrane typically will have positive charge and negative charges, which you can see that step by step axon, how this nerve impulse is conducted is given here. So direction of travel of action potential. So when the stimulus, so in response to signal or stimulus, the soma end of the axon becomes depolarized. So the soma means cell body. The cell body which is there, it gets depolarized. It means it would change its charge from negative to positive. Usually it would be in resting position. When the stimulus reaches, it gets depolarized. So once depolarization occurs, it next goes to the next point. For example, if you consider this is A point and this is B point and this is C C point and this is D point. From A to B to C to D, the nerve impulse would be depolarized and it would be traveling. It means action potential is traveling down the axon. So once depolarization occurs, spreads down the axon. Meanwhile, the first part of the membrane repolarized. Again, the charge would be converted into negative charge. So here you have to remember potassium and sodium. Sodium ions and potassium ions would play a major role, especially sodium potassium pumps will be there, which will be taking care of the ions, which should go inside to outside to inside to out. So once because sodium ion channels are inactivated and additional K plus channels have opened. So here depolarization would be spread because of the sodium ions are not entering and it make it positive K plus ion channels will be open so that the membrane cannot depolarize again. So it gets repolarization. It means the direction is maintaining. So depolarization came from A to B to C position and it's going to D position. After getting depolarized, it means action potential is traveling down the axon. When at the axon terminal, it receives a signal, electrical impulse, and releases the synaptic vesicles. So this is very complex topic. So that's what I used this instead of PPT. I directly used this, image-based explanation. So this is about nerve impulse, nervous system, nerve conduction. So this completely. So this neurons which are there, right? They would be continuously sending the signals to the other neurons, and which releases the stimulus. So if I have to say that if there needs to be certain action, for example, I'm writing on this iPad. So sorry, this graphic pad where I'm writing, right? So I'm taking visual information. So let's resume. So this visual information is processed where light is fell on the retina. Retinal cells has direct connection to the optic nerve. And this optic nerve goes to the brain, to the sensory occipital lobes, where the image is processed. Image processing takes place. But here there are nerves, optic nerve is there. So through nerve, how it would be traveling? Depolarization, action potential, repolarization. So it is a continuous format. So the nerve impulse would actually follow a certain direction. And especially down the axon, this nerve impulse would be moving. So likewise, so that once the brain taken the image, right, and based upon the commands, now what happens if I have to hold a pen? So that effector nerve cells or neurons would actually connect to the muscles, and these muscles are connected to bone, and movement would be occurring. So this is how the signaling would be taken care. So this is basics of neuronal structure and function. So in the next aspects, we will be learning more about how this, what are the different centers in the brain, what are the different centers in. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it would be useful for you guys. So subscribe to my channel and share these videos to your friends as well, who are NET aspirants, UGC aspirants, so that it would be helpful for everyone. Thank you.